Today we are going to be talking about hygiene out in the field, keeping yourself clean, looking after yourself, so internally and externally. As always guys, make sure you've hit the like, subscribe and share button. Essentially you're going to need some sort of heat source. We're also going to look at maybe things you can do when you haven't necessarily got that option and you're running out of kit. Tilly Moo is with me today. Tilly's just far too excited because she's out in the woods. What I've brought along today. Okay, so in this bag I've got, it's pretty much a side pouch out of my 45 litre day sack. In addition to that, as always, we've got the trusty Crusader here. I've put together a little Tupperware box with some different options so that we can go through that and show you that as well. Okay, so taking a quick look inside the bag. So I've got a old school desert style waterproof camo bag. Waterproof bags inside of waterproof bags. I know some of you love that. I've put my IFAC in this bag for the purpose of this video so that I could get it out in conjunction with these. Okay, that is quite a typical pack for me, personal admin stuff, in a vacuum sealed bag. Okay, and we're going to take a look at what's inside here. And last but not least, okay, again a vacuum sealed bag with some items of clothing in there. Right, so that's pretty much all that's in there for now. Think about your layer system, guys. Thinking about what you carry. So what I've got in here, it says marine trousers base layer. Well, I know that there's a top in there as well. So I've got a top and bottoms. Choosing to use merino wool here in this instance because when we think about hygiene, okay, it's got to all evolve around you working in conjunction with sleeping inside a sleeping bag, which is trying to hold and trap as much heat as possible. So if you're using your thermal long johns inside your sleeping bag because maybe your bag isn't quite cutting the mustard in the winter months or for whatever reason, okay, there's a lot of sweating going on into the bag and into your clothes. Over time what's going to happen is this stuff's going to get all clagged up. Now the beauty of merino wool is it doesn't tend to smell anywhere near as bad as some of the more modern fibres. However, it doesn't wick away sweat in the same way. What I'm basically saying here is much depends on your level of activity as to when and where and how you employ this clothing. So for me, my thermals are going to be going on when I'm static or when I'm in a winter kind of scenario like now. In conjunction with my sleeping bag, these will get pushed down to the bottom as a possible option I can put on in the middle of the night. I haven't got to break that sacred seal. I can just put my thermals on and get through to the daylight hours before I go ahead and make a plan. And you can get stuff that's impregnated with silver as well, which is antibacterial, microbacterial. If you are actually going to go firm and start to have a decent wash, okay, you're going to want a decent towel. Now these microfiber towels are quite useful. Okay, so this is my large towel, and I say my large towel, but it will actually go around me so I can hopscotch across the forest floor, modestly covering myself. But I have some smaller options in here as well for those of you who want to go ultra light. But for me, the microfiber towel is a winning option. In addition to that, eco-friendly style wash inside of there. The original wash has long since been gone. You can refill these quite easily, so they're cool. Looking in here now, what I've done today is I've brought out some options for you as we dive into this bag. Now the first thing you're going to see I pull out here is a container. What I've got is a really simple military folding container that folds down into next to nothing. Okay, they kind of fold up pretty darn small. Look at that. If that's not enough for you, going to break out a bit of a favourite of mine, the Sea to Summit 10 litre kitchen sink. I always see this as a luxury item. I really rate these. I think these are great. I've used these on a number of occasions. This pops out. It sits on a belt, and the actual thing itself is really hard wearing. I've used this in Africa not too long ago for having some showers and stuff. Sea to Summit generally make very good gear, and of course this thing is reversible, so you can have it this way round, okay, so that the water is heating up maybe if you're in a sunny climate, or you can have it this way round, and again it's going to work really well. You can use this, I've used this for collecting water a number of times, and you can see the toothpaste. You can see where I've been having a wash in here. You can just quite easily pack these back down, okay, and then you've got to fight that back into there, which is always the laughable moment. This would normally be an item that I'd strap to the outside of my equipment. This would fit on here quite nicely. You could just use your good old-fashioned Crusader mug. On many occasions, on a freezing cold morning in Dartmoor, especially as a Royal Marine recruit, you'd have to do all of your morning business. Traditionally, it'd be mesh tins, but quite quickly when you get to unit, you try and do away with those. And yeah, so you're looking at having a shave, making yourself a cup of tea, washing your body, and you might have a couple of containers or a system that you use for that. There's nothing wrong with going with steel. Look, at the end of the day, you're most likely to be carrying a metal mug of some sort, so having a couple of containers with you is always helpful so that you can wash out of. Please excuse my trusty Sea to Summit container. You can see the top of the parachute here. So normally that's probably got some food in it. Yeah, right, okay, so it's got a basic one meal in there at the moment. What we got, some sardines and some noodles. That can be used to obviously boil water in, and possibly enough to then add to some cold water in one of these containers so that you can actually have a suitable wash. Same sketch with that. Hand gel containers. There has never been more of these on the market than there are today, and I've just grabbed a cross section of a couple. Okay, depending on how long you're going to be away for. I mean, think about this. This is 200 mils. Okay, think about the weight of that. And then you've got this one, which is, doesn't even say how much is in this one. I can't see it. Oh, 100 mils. There's 100 mil, 200 mil, and then you go down to a little one. 1.7 fluid ounces, so 50 mil. 3 different sizes there of hand sanitizer, which obviously can be used for staying nice and clean. But in addition to that, once these pots are used up, you can go ahead and fill them up with any soap of your choice. Goes without saying, just don't go tipping it straight into a water source, even if it is eco-friendly. Dig yourself a little hole, maybe 4 to 6 inches deep, and pour it off down there. Another option for soap could be your classic pine tar. I can smell it through the cling film. Now I've cling filmed this up because I've been using it for the last week or so at the house, just to really test it in the run up to this video. Is it effective? Yes. It doesn't lather up nearly the same as something you'd expect from a commercial side of things. Does it make you smell of fire? Yes. I love the smell of fire, so I've got the smoke going in my face right now. I'm not fussed about that. It's not to be confused with coal tar soap. Okay, so coal tar soap is in fact banned in the EU because of its potential carcinogenic effects. Pine tar soap is still readily available and you can buy it on the market. It is essentially a series of compounds melted down and reformed together, with anything from 1 to up to 10% of it being actual pine tar. Now the type of pine it comes from is quite important as well, but again, it's not going to be out there and available unless it's probably quite reputable or well tested or well formed or well thought through. The problem with soap, and this comes down to admin again, is once you've got a great big dirty great bar of soap that's all wet and slimy, that's now somehow got to go back into your kit. But it does lead me on to thinking about plant compounds and some of the more natural options that we could be maybe sourcing from the wider woodland, forest or landscape around us. I've used a bar of soap before to some use by putting it inside a very small string bag, like one of those lightweight camera type bags, and that kind of all foams up, and you can then lanyard it to your hand. Otherwise you lose the bar of soap in the river, it's gone. Okay, so that's just another tip if you want to go down that route. Personally, I'd stick to something you can put in a plastic container, or some sort of a gel or some sort of a liquid form soap would be a little bit easier to manage. Thinking about your teeth, obviously you can get these kind of like really small lightweight little hotel options where the actual brush itself is hooded inside a plastic sheath. They're not too bad. If you run out of toothpaste, the Victorians were using charcoal to some great effect, as it's quite abrasive. Probably not a long-term plan. Attracts impurities, breaks down really nicely. It's a go-to, and if you've already got a campfire on, then why not give it a go? Okay, so I did say I'd also cover external as well as internal. Think about your hair as well, guys. If you get a tick somewhere on your scalp or in your head from sleeping amongst the undergrowth, how are you going to know about that other than when you're putting your hat on or taking your hat off? Something that we were taught as young commandos was to actually have some sort of a fold away comb option. Okay, so I've got 2 options here: wide tooth or kind of a fine tooth, and just literally the act of going through and over your entire head will quite quickly pick out whether there's a cut, a scar, a tick or something like that that's harbouring or hiding against your scalp. Doesn't really weigh an awful lot. Look, all these things are adding up and it's down to you, but I would always say you're going to increase your survivability so long as you are clean, fit and able to continue to do so. Okay, so feet are very important. Now this kind of desert coloured bag has only been chosen for the sheer fact that it's a different colour. It's enough to harbour a couple of pairs of socks, So some of you will be laughing already. Yes, these are issued socks and I still have many of them on the go. They are absolutely bomb-proof. Stay pussers, stay safe for you naval ranks out there. I still get very excited about a fresh pair of socks. Any other soldiers out there will probably know exactly what I mean. And then inside there, I'm probably going to have some zinc oxide tape. Now, zinc oxide tape is quite well famed for its ability to help cool and soothe tired, sore, aching feet that have got what we call hot spots. So where the heel is rubbing, hasn't actually formed a blister yet, but it's got very hot, very angry, very red, and that pain is starting to come. As a preventative measure, you can tape up your heel. The other thing I tend to carry is some of this Mycota athlete's foot powder. Okay, so just starting to heat up some water. Still got a little bit left to cool it down with. Half is going to get warmed up now in here. Now on just a litre, I should be able to give myself a fairly good wash, and I don't necessarily want to be going and stripping right down here as we're in the winter. So we want to try and preserve calories, we want to get clean. To do that, ideally we want to use warm water, which is going to help soften your body's oils. The more time you spend in the outdoors, the more you're going to be sweating. The more you're sweating, the more your body actually goes into overdrive and produces even more of its own body's natural oils, because it is trying to waterproof itself. It's kind of a sketch that in order to be as clean as possible, we're going to need to use that warm water, let the skin breathe, let that transpiration process take place, so when we sweat, okay, we can actually push moisture out through our pores. While we wait for that to boil, what else have I got in here to show you? Pack tissues. Pack of tissues always goes a really long way. Probably the sort of thing you're going to use for perhaps wiping or drying, more so for the toilet routine. Yeah, you're going to need something to wipe your bum. So in goes my cold water. That's probably about 40 degrees, about the same as your shower at home. So I've got this microfiber towel I can work with. I've got a little bit of gel soap there. And obviously I've got my tea tree wipes. Generally it's quite easy to keep your front clean, and your armpits you're going to need to prioritize, okay? Your intimate parts as well are quite important. You're going to want to kind of prioritize those areas, but you're going to need to do this in an order so that you haven't just cleaned your bum and then you're wiping your face. Follow me on this. Your hands are pretty easy to clean, so you don't need to worry about that, and they're going to get clean in this process. So I'm going to throw this in here. Generally you might want a small cloth or something you can use like that. This is now soaked quite nicely. So the first thing you're going to need to do, obviously, is think about where you're going to be washing yourself. And you see the heat coming off this thing. You're probably doing your face, going down into your top of your chest area here, where that heat is kind of meeting the cold air from outside. So you're going to go up underneath and do your armpits, a sort of clothed strip wash of sorts, exposing as little of yourself in terms of your bare skin to the elements. I'm going to need to use this for my rinse as well, so I'm better off just putting a little bit of soap on here rather than putting it in the water just yet. Working that on there into a lather. Okay, now I can use this obviously to clean my face. Strip wash 101. So we've just done that, okay. And now really to get down into here, I can go across the top of my back and then up underneath the small of the back. Weight out on armpits, weight out on genitals and bum until the very end. So as a gentleman, I would go in through my fly and try and do the top of my thighs, and then down through the back to do my my hamstrings. Just going to lift that as high as it can go. Give yourself a good wipe down there. Because remember, you are sweating all over inside your sleeping bag. Feet generally tend to get done every single night just before I get into my sleeping bag as part of my little nighttime routine. Now what we're going to need to do is go in there and do something like an armpit. Tiny bit more soap. I'm going to go ahead and do an armpit. Go down through the top, go up through the bottom, whatever works. Now this is an area which you're going to need to pay attention to, otherwise you're going to get sores. And as soon as you've done that, get in there and dry them off straight away. Now that we're on to the dirty jobs, you're going to then have to go probably down through the front of your trousers, clean around the front of yourself, underneath, and the same the other side, and give yourself a really good clean with soap, and then rinse it off again. You can see the colour of the water has changed. It's gone to a nice dirty murky colour, okay. So now what you're going to do with this water? Well, it's got some eco-friendly soap in there, so it's not the end of the world. But what I'm not going to do is stick it straight down in the stream, which is down the bottom of the hill there. I'm probably going to run it off up here somewhere, because I can't really do much more with that. But that's the basics of a strip wash. What do you do with this now? You'd have heard me talk about the ring and spin method, or spin and ring. Take hold of the offending item and spin it. Okay, give it a good spin, get the worst of it out. With a friend or yourself, you're gonna have to wring this out as best you can. You can put a stick through here and make it like a windlass. I mean, these dry out so quickly. If you're in a fixed position and you've got a fire on, probably goes without saying, you're gonna wanna try and dry that out. To show you my last couple of natural options, we're gonna have to go on a bit of a journey. So I'm gonna stick my coat on, take my Crusader mug, and we're gonna go and take a look at some natural options that you can use to wash yourself out in the field. So this, I can't believe that this is still, in November in the UK, that this is still in flower. Red campion or soapwort. What's quite interesting about this little plant here is it contains quite a high level of saponins. It has soap qualities and it has those kind of base chemicals for making soap inside it. So I can collect up a load of those, crush them down, put them in the warm water, extract some of those compounds and then use those to wash in. Sphagnum moss. I think there's 24 different types of moss here in the UK, and you can use it a bit like a sponge. You can dip it in some charcoal and use it to clean your pots and pans around the campfire. But it also contains iodine. And in World War I, this was used as a field dressing. So moss is a fantastic one. Okay, so that's going to be going in my little pot. Now, willow, any of the willow family, contain salicylic acid, which on the inner bark is again another really good one for anyone who's got really bad skin conditions. You can make yourself a nice cup of tea with the inner bark of a willow. Let that cool, put it in the bath water for little kids that have got eczema and stuff like that. There's a lovely great big crack willow coming out here. Okay, and as we have a look inside here and I start to peel this, you should be able to see in this inner bark, which tastes quite sour, and that's because it's got that almost aspirin bitter taste about it. Another option you can use to make a nice clean solution to wash in is over there, and so we're heading over to the pine wood block. What I'm looking for in the pine wood block is an example to show you guys of one of the most common types of pine here, certainly in Europe, is the Scots pine. Now the big giveaway with the Scots pine is this kind of orange, deep orange colour, orange hue. You've got the cones, okay, it's a very telltale Scots pine cones, and the fact that when I pull the needles off, okay, the needles come off in twos. So needles in two with an orange hue is how I recognise a Scots pine. Making pine needle tea is quite important, and to do that all you're going to do is take these off, collect these, and they're going to come back to camp as well. Now, making a cup of tea with pine needles is a well-known kind of survival trick or hack. Pine needle tea, it contains lots of vitamin C. The bit people always get wrong, and here's my top tip, is don't boil it. When you boil it and you take it to boiling point, you actually destroy the vitamin C. So don't do that, get it good and hot. If you let that cool, that is then great to be able to wash with, etc. I would go ahead and just get a stick and crush the needles down before adding your hot water or before boiling it all up together. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you tune in next week for another video. Be sure to hit that subscribe, like and share button. Cheers for now, bye.